Right. If Trump were to be convicted in this case, what kind of penalty potentially could he be looking at?
You know, he could be looking at jail. This is one where the judge, I think, is going to be looking at the rule of law to see how other people were treated, other people with a similar criminal background. I think this is an area where Donald Trump's pretrial behavior is going to be relevant. If you have someone who's contrite, if you have someone who shares that he's respectful of the rule of law, that this was an aberration, that is something that the court can take into account. But if you think that the defendant actually is running basically as an outlaw and is basically thumbing his nose at the judicial process, and it shows no sign of remorse and essentially is a recidivist, those are factors that a judge can consider. And I am sure that a judge like Judge Merchan, if there were to be a conviction, is going to factor all of that in. But it's just way too soon to say whether it would actually constitute jail time. The one thing I would add, Wolf, is I think the fact that the former president has Secret Service protection is not going to be something that prevents him from doing jail time. That's something that can be worked out. It is a factor, but it is not something that is preclusive, I think, for any judge considering whether to send Donald Trump to jail if there is a conviction.
At the moment, it is a meme. It's a made-up picture, but we have two people who both have said, and this is an April Fool's, this is the 2nd of April, Trump could be in prison. You know, like when you used to have to do lines, or repeat something over and over again. I'll just say it again because it sounds so good. We'll rearrange it if you like. Trump could be jailed over this hush money situation. Now, this is the way I see it. Publicly, Trump would love to be jailed. It can play the victim, they get loads and loads of coverage, there'll be cameras outside, and they'll be raising money off of it. So I actually think there's going to be a certain amount to call my bluff in terms of all the threats he's issuing against judges' families, even though it's been debunked. They're going to have to get this so right, because he's playing a dangerous game where he just wants you to get the violins out, feel sorry for him, and if you're a MAGA, send him all your hard-earned money. In fact, mortgage your house and send it all to him, because for a multi-billionaire, he's broke.
Their hats on, that is immigration. Voters tend to give the GOP higher marks on the issue, and this time that is being supercharged potentially by the number of migrants that have arrived in cities far from the border, blue cities. According to polling done by the AP, about 2/3 of Americans do not approve of Biden's handling of the border, including 4 in 10 Democrats. Joining us now in Green Bay with the Trump campaign, our NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. Also with me is the Cook Political Report senior editor David Wasserman. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Vaughn, I'm going to start with you. So this is such a thorny issue because the Biden administration, when they're talking about immigration, will say, hey, listen, we came to a compromise in the Senate, a conservative-leaning compromise on the issue of immigration. And it wasn't Democrats who were shooting it down. It was Republicans who shot it down. Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House, at the request of Donald Trump. So how is Donald Trump then trying to take that issue, which he torpedoed, a compromise which he torpedoed, and try to run on it, try to campaign on it?
Well, I think that's what we're about to watch, Katie. You're the one that just said it. He urged his Republican colleagues in the United States Congress to kill the bill, and they effectively did. And now, for the next 7 months, he, as we are witnessing at this very moment, I was just listening to him giving these remarks in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and using anecdotally the lives of individuals, Americans who were killed at the hands of undocumented immigrants, as emotional motivation to have the American electorate rally around Republicans, including him, come November. And yet what we have seen is that this is a playbook that we have seen from Donald Trump before. The question is, will it work this go around? Katie, in July of 2015, you and I were in Phoenix, Arizona, his first mega rally, and one of the pre-speakers at that event in July of 2015 was the father of an individual who was killed by an undocumented immigrant. Donald Trump has used these anecdotal stories to try to motivate the base and support to rally around him. I can even go back to a past job of mine. Back in 2010, Steve King, the former congressman from Iowa, had made a claim that 9,000 Americans were killed annually by undocumented immigrants. This is something that Americans have heard, this sort of severe immigration rhetoric for a long time. But frankly, the data does not bear out the fact that undocumented immigrants kill Americans at any greater rate than legal Americans, if you will. But that is the difficult part here, and especially when you're dealing with devastating, tragic stories like Laken Riley's in Georgia. And Donald Trump has made it clear that he is going to try to politically use those tragedies for the political gain.
Well, the data.
Bear with me, I'm just Googling something to get on Google, and I want to see what the definition has in my phone. Hold on 1 second. So, I am Googling a-hole. What is, I'm going to actually say, what is a-hole in slang? Okay, this is what it says. Let me read it out for you. What is a-hole in slang? Slang derogatory is a person's mouth just shut your hole. Slang, it refers to any bodily orifice, in particular the anus. Right, that's the official old school definition, and Nicole Wallace has the bang up to date 2024 former Trumpy Trump position.
Fred, you tell me how this happened.
First, my first chance to see you since you've come back, and I'm thrilled to be back with you. And I know everything is going great for you at home, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Listen, Nicole, my life the past 6 years is the life of a person who's become intensely political because of what he lost, because of how the political system failed my family. And I also believe in the political system's ability for change as long as we save democracy. I so loved your prior conversation with Chris Quinn about truth and facts, because everything I do is from that standpoint of we have to be honest with one another about where we are and about what the risks are if we don't vote. Mm-hmm. Joe and I, years ago when I was on your show, Joe and I would go at it. I mean, we did not care for each other. We didn't trust one another. And then one day he reached out and we became friends. We met and we started talking and we realized we have an awful lot in common. We have a lot we don't agree on, and we have a lot we don't have in common. But we both love this country. We both love democracy, and we are both going to fight for it.
You know, Fred, you always make me cry. I'm determined to someday have you on and not cry. But this idea of what you lost, I had Judge Esther Salas here yesterday. She lost her son to violence. You lost your daughter. I mean, it's all about the failures, not just of our policies, but the failures of our society to stop the meanness, to crowd it out, to if you see something, say something. It's what we asked every citizen to do after this heinous terrorist attack. And now you've got one of the two political parties, once great party in the country, totally enabling violent rhetoric. They're beyond, Joe, looking away. They are now enabling, greenlighting, stepping aside to make way for more cruelty, to make way for more authoritarian tactics being deployed on the American people they say they serve, they say they love. How do you call out the bullshit in the Republican Party in a way that wakes everybody else up? You don't need to convert them all, I guess, into Biden voters, but how do you wake them up and get them to stop being a threat to our democracy?
Nicole, I think a lot of it has to do with who's trying to wake them up, who that messenger is. And look, you know my history. I was a divisive political asshole from the right. I was a Trump supporter. I left that world because I realized, Nicole, you and I have talked about it, all the destruction that leads to. Here's the point. You talked about toxicity. Fred and I know who we want to win in November. I believe no matter who wins in November, this country is going to be 100 times more divided. And if the American people continue down this road where we want to destroy the people we disagree with, our democracy is going to fail. And Nicole, I'll fully acknowledge that MAGA, my world on the right, is further down that road. But man, damn near all Americans now are on that road where I hate the person I disagree with. I want nothing to do with them. Fred and I are just trying to show people that it's possible to listen to people you disagree with.
Well, let me just,
And to talk with decency and civility.
Joe, who are you going to vote for in November?
Oh, I voted for Joe Biden in 2020, and I'm doing everything I can every single day, same, to help Biden get elected, because I believe, Nicole, Trump's an existential threat to our democracy and the rule of law. No doubt about it.